Wow, this is dark. Hi. That's encouraging. Thank you. So I'm on? Yeah, I'm on. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, to start with, I would like to tell you what led to this talk. Actually, by the beginning of the year, I was at a conference, and a type designer colleague of mine asked me, "So, when are you gonna start designing fonts? This lettering thing is not gonna last, you know?" Yeah, I didn't laugh at the time. Actually, I smiled and I looked down and I couldn't say anything. I just couldn't reply anything. It's not a hard thing to take that, a colleague of yours tells you that the job you do, the thing you think you're best at, or that the only thing you imagine yourself doing is going to disappear and you will have to look for another job. And this question kept resonating in my head. And I kept thinking, I should have said this, or I should have said that. I should have explained why lettering is important for design. So I came up with a good idea, which I think is putting all these thoughts together and send a proposal for an ATypI talk. So here I am. Um, I think this is the perfect environment to speak about this because I think that what this type designer said pretty much reflects what many out there think, and perhaps many here in this room think. And since lettering is a trend and it's gonna go away, then it doesn't really matter. Um, but it does. I've been working exclusively in lettering for the last years, for the last over 6 years. And it's true. The more work I do, the more my the more personal my work tends to be, and the more I tend to be put, in the slot of an artist rather than a designer. And this is okay. Artists are cool. I mean, you can call me that. But the thing is that under this line of thought, then we tend to think that lettering is an art, and as such, it's depending on personal taste, and it's all about personal expression. And we tend to put any sloppy brush script in the same bag than a well-crafted lettering piece. But there is differences. And I'm here today to speak about, to give you a little bit of an overview of what lettering is and involves, a little bit about the craft and working commercially with lettering, but also especially to speak about what makes a good piece of lettering. Um, I often say that lettering, as a letterer, you're always working on this fine line of between art and design. If the client that is commissioning work asks you to show your voice through the piece, then he's asking you to be an artist or to behave like an artist. If the client that is commissioning the work is asking you to communicate a certain thing, a certain value, then, like in logotype design, for instance, then you are a designer. So this talk is going to stand on the same line. It's the only way I can give this talk. So although I will be speaking about, design in a design discipline, this will all be based in my personal experience. I will only be showing pieces of my work as examples. So yeah, you're about to see non-research based type specimen-free talk. I hope you're ready. So lettering has experienced a recent boom. I think we will all agree with this. And I bet there's a lot of explanations to this, to this phenomena. But I have one hypothesis. At ATypI Barcelona, I gave a talk. I don't know how many of you were there, but I was speaking about my experience at giving lettering workshops. And I was saying that many people that come to my workshops are actually people interested in letter design, and they find in lettering a pretty a friendly way to approach it. Because type design is scary. It's very technical. Type designers tend to be special people in a good way. So from this perspective, lettering seems, a lot more friendly. It's all about expression. So for everyone who has an interest in typography, the idea of grabbing a brush and trying to make something out of it is much more approachable than sitting down and making a whole alphabet work. But they come to my workshops and they end up drawing letters like anyone else. This means that there will be people that is interested in typography that will approach letter design through lettering. Some of them will just drop it because, yeah, it is trendy now and they will stop doing it. Some of them will continue doing lettering and will get better. And some of them will download their first trial font editor and will make fonts. So the same, what they end up doing, they come through the door of lettering to letter design. I did exactly the opposite way. I started by learning how to do type. This is me. During my studies in The Hague, you can already see that there was some interest for extroverted letter shapes and script typography. Yeah, this is a personal note. This was a great year. I could really try all the tools to create letter shapes and all the techniques to create letter shapes. Yeah, but studying was, I didn't picture this present working with lettering before having my studies in The Hague, and I didn't picture this present before having my Ken Barber moment. I'm putting all my credentials up here, like Ken Barber workshop and studies in The Hague, and you don't have to explain much, but yeah, that was the moment. Actually, I show this picture because it's like a milestone for me. That was the moment where I actually said, hey, I could imagine myself doing, working in this direction, and this guy is making a living with it too. So I was decided to do this after my studies. I was decided to pursue this track this way. But I felt I could draw extroverted letter shapes. But once I had them done, I could only add color to it. So it really took me a lot of learning through making to create atmospheres to achieve a certain depth with my designs. So as many of you know, fonts are concept-free. You cannot create a font that feels dark or a font that reminds you of a springtime day. Fonts acquire value and sense when in use, when applied on a layout, on a poster, on a logotype. In this sense, lettering is all about storytelling. You are looking to communicate something, to tell something, to tell a story beyond the literal meaning of what is written. So to make my way in lettering, I had to go from this concept-free, black and white, systematic approach of type design to a totally conceptual, storytelling, colorful work process of lettering. Having this studies in type design as a letterer is it's a good thing. It's a big card in your pocket. However, there's a long way to explore after that. The good thing about studying type design is that it really set the focus on letter shapes, right? So you don't jump so easily into embellishment, textures, effects, which is something really easy to do when you're starting with lettering. And it's a common mistake that I see out there. And I tell you a secret, these things, effects, shadows, and embellishments, can make a very good job at disguising badly drawn letter shapes for a non-trained eye, of course. So designing this graphic design, most of the time involves this, marrying these two things: text, content, typography, with image, whatever that is, photo, illustration. So lettering stands right in the middle. Yeah, actually creating an image with typography. I cannot help to find awkward when someone says, I understand why, but I cannot help to find awkward when someone says that lettering is the new thing, because it has been there for a while. I keep, traveling to cities and collecting pictures of vernacular typography, and I bet I'm not the only one here in the room. um, so, a lot of things changed from the time these signs were done. And these people was probably designing those signs in paper, sketching, then improving that drawing, and then having this executed in ceramics or metal or wood. Um, However, they were doing the same thing that letters do nowadays, which is storytelling with letter shapes. I bet that the guy that did design was looking to tell the people that this bar is cool and trendy and chic at that time, of course. Um, or that this guy wanted this store to look friendly and inviting, and therefore he used these chubby, rounded letter shapes and these bright colors. Um, I call this Wurst lettering. Sausage typography would pretty much tell the story of the store selling sausages. Um, so, although our result nowadays is mostly digital, because on top of the analog tools, we have the digital tools. Although our result is mostly digital, we need to use sketches more than ever, because we need to be faster than ever before. Let me explain this point. I want to show you how a commercial commission in lettering will go ahead. First, you will get an email of a client with a brief, where you get all the specifications, formats, which audience you're talking to, if they have an idea of references from your work, and a direction, color, limitations, or whatever. So then you will start by a fast sketch. I think this pretty much exemplifies the process of any letter out there. So I personally would start with a fast sketch on paper. In this case, it's script typography, so I will use my handwriting as a base. And this is just this first sketch, very loose, very fast. And on top of that, I will use a layer of tracing paper. I will pick up the things that I like, the things that I don't like, I would change. This is a technique widely used by letter designers because it proved to be really effective. So it's nothing new. It's just what works for everyone and what works for me too. So with this first sketch, which I improved with layers, according to the project, the complexity of the project, or your experience as a letterer, you will need more or less layers in each case. So the sketch is the thing that I will show to the client. The sketch is the thing that I will show to the client, and then we will discuss about changes and if he likes the direction or not. If the composition is working, if the color scheme is working as well, and then I will move on to the digital drawing. If you want to work commercially with lettering, you need to use sketches to make it work. For a couple of reasons. When you're working with lettering or in lettering commissions, you often have a client, and the client has a say and wants to give feedback. So the sketch is the place where you will have, this conversation with the client. The client is often an art director, an editor, so they know what they're talking about. This is cool. They can speak about typography. And you also want to get their feedback because they are the guys who actually know the product where your artwork is going to be printed on. So they can make your work, they can improve your work a lot. At the same time, these clients, these art directors or editors, they work for a magazine or an agency, and you're often tied to a very short deadline. Therefore, the sketch, the hand sketch, doesn't matter how sloppy or how pro your sketch is a place where you can very easily incorporate, solve the most of the problems of your design and incorporate also the client feedback. Um, so when the sketch is approved, you can go on to the digital drawing. I would normally import my drawing and use this as a base to continue improving that sketch. This is a pretty simple sketch. So, the digital drawing is actually like another layer of tracing paper where you keep improving that drawing, right? And the digital drawing is the place where you incorporate color, um, um, texture, embellishments. But as many of drawing letter shapes with vectors is a very slow-moving job. So that's why you need to have the feedback with the client and everything already sort out to be able to invest most of the time into the digital drawing, because this is the most time-consuming part of the whole process. So a couple of secrets on my techniques to draw rounded letter shapes. So yeah, so you will agree with me when I say that lettering is everywhere now, and it seems that in social media is doing this very visible. And I think social media is just great because it just, gives the people the power to show their work. And this is fantastic. And it allows you also to connect with other people, other like-minded people. I see also downsides to this. On one hand, whatever is trendy is like super trendy. It's multiplied by millions in the social media. On the other hand, is that it's administrated by the crowd. So under the hashtag lettering, you find a lot of things. You find good things, bad things, and things that are not even lettering. So yeah, and of course, this is not so terrible. The problem is when this jumps from the social media to the professional sphere. No? I was recently asked, what do I think when I see a badly executed lettering piece on a massive billboard campaign or a magazine cover? And I have to say that my first reaction is, to get angry. It just pisses me off because I hate bad letter shapes. And I bet this is a common sentiment here. Whenever I see a badly executed letter shapes, it's just like I feel it here. Um, you know, because in a way, like I feel also responsible for this. Because I bet that, that letterer or illustrator who is executing this lettering is doing the best he or she can to do that. But I cannot help thinking like, if I could just had this person coming to one of my workshops, she would solve this connection in the script lettering a lot better, And yeah, and I feel that I should be doing something about it. So teaching is one of the things I do against bad letter shapes. Another thing I started to do recently is to preach. So whenever I go to a design conference where I speak in front of, art directors and editors and designers, I just hand them in tools that they can use to filter all the stream of work out there. And I don't mean Instagram, because they don't kill anyone if they like a photo on Instagram or not. But one day these people or these art directors and editors will have to, commission a lettering piece for a campaign, for their magazine, and they need to know, the work they are commissioning. They need to know to differentiate what is good and what is bad. So I have a set of standards to identify good lettering work. So I'm going to share it with you right now. The first one is consistency, and a lot of you here in the audience are familiar with this term. And this means more or less that there's a couple of design decisions, applied consistently in used throughout the piece. Let's start by something simple. Just focus, let's say contrast, the difference between thin strokes and thick strokes. I'm using here the same contrast throughout the whole piece, even in the swashes and in the letter shapes. There's also another design decision, for instance. All the stroke endings have a diagonal cut and they are sharp. So you can see that everywhere, not only in the letter shapes, but also in the swashes. These are very obvious things that everyone can see. Now, we go a bit deeper. Look at the O. Try to extract the oval shape of the O. So once you have this oval shape in your head, you can find it also on the C, on the E, on the C down there as well. Now, go a little bit farther and turn that oval shape 60 degrees, more or less, and you will find it here, and there, and up there. So this mother shape is also ruling other features of the design. So here we have contrast, we have stroke terminals, and we have a mother shape that is, consistent throughout the design. Consistency not only refers to letter shapes, but also to the features you're using in the design. I was using pre-classic letter shapes for this design, but I was incorporating some swashes, which were showing up in different places of the piece. So look at the curl in the D being balanced by the curl in the S. Look at the curve of the L over there, having the same or sharing the same shape here with the swash of the B. And look how this stroke is leaving that S and how that one is leaving that S. So they share certain features with each other. Just want to show this because I think football and lettering are a very good match. So the second important parameter to judge a good lettering piece is custom. Lettering has to be done for a certain application that wouldn't be the same without it. They belong together, and they don't make sense if they are not matching. This is a spread for the Spiegel magazine in Germany, and they were doing an article about the word Gelassenheit, which means serenity in English, and that has its origins in the medieval times. So we were trying to recreate an old medieval book, and therefore we worked together with the art director in creating a layout that works together with the header. They belong together, actually work together, and they don't make sense separately. Lettering can also complement the tone of an image or reinforce it. So when you see them together, they actually are meant to be. Another important parameter is detail. Lettering, this is what I think makes a very distinctive tool of lettering for design. That you're working with a couple of letters, a couple of words, and you can use the amount of embellishments and detail that sometimes you cannot afford to use in a font project, because since you have to create a full alphabet and all combinations should work, you have to make some compromises. And the font project will be endless or simply impossible. So in lettering, you can dedicate a fair amount of time to work with embellishment and detail. This is also a commission where I only had to design 7 figures, and I could dedicate a fair amount of time to each. Lettering allows you to control the whole as well, and to work with the space around the letters with the same level of detail that you work within the letters. Another critical parameter, the story. Is the lettering conveying the story you want to tell? The story to tell here is clear. I'm speaking about money. And as any illustrative art, lettering is working with things and ideas and concepts that are already in our head. So what is expensive? How do I speak about money? So I take gold, bold, and complex patterns from money, and I put that in one image. It's as simple and complex as that. I recently did this cover for Alice in Wonderland in Spanish language. do you remember the story of Alice in Wonderland? She's falling in the rabbit hole, and starting like a nonsense strip by Wonderland. So I'm just in this cover. I'm just recreating the atmosphere of the story. I just let the reader tell whether that's a thriller, it's a romantic novel, or it's a book for teens. Good letter shapes. If we hate bad letter shapes, these letter shapes should be good, excellent, well crafted. No broken curves, no potato looking O's. Yeah, nicey letter shapes. Your start should start here. And once you, black and white, and once you have good letter shapes, then you have to first try to make this work. And whatever comes after is to make those shapes shine. And last parameter is novel. It should be, this applies, I guess, to a lot of other disciplines. The work has to bring something new to the world. These two examples that I'm going to show are two book covers of two stories that took place in the Victorian time. And the brief was clearly to take inspiration from that time. And we are lucky nowadays. We have a vast library of letters to take inspiration from the past. But it doesn't mean at any point to actually copy those, because that work is done. Whatever inspiration you take from the past should should be converted into a new product, and should be adapted. The shapes of those letters should be adapted to a contemporary eye. Copying is just not enough. So, to wrap up, a good lettering piece should be consistent, should be custom for its